lot of times people come into practice of therapy and they don't want the focus to be on themselves. They want it to be on a relationship that's struggling, a friendship that's struggling, a parent that's not available. And all of those things are really valid. They're not the root of healing. The root of healing is, and what is that part of yourself that's like super painful that you don't want to talk about, that you don't want to get out? And it's that piece that brings people in connected to themselves. They just have to feel safe in that.
Hey everyone, you're now listening to Cup of Queens with Paige and Saray, and today we are talking with Melissa from Mindful Healing and learning all about practicing healthy mindsets and overall mental health. Melissa focuses on helping women navigate through trauma, difficult life situations, and simply being kind to yourself. She even breaks down her morning routine for us and gives helpful tips on how to apply mindfulness throughout your day. So grab your cup and enjoy!
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Look at you and your setup. I love it.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
podcast.
I'm excited to visit and hopefully share a little bit on my heart and how it relates to our community. So
Yeah, we're so excited to chat with you. So we always love to just start with, a little get to know you and tell us about your background, how you kind of got into the industry that you're in. And yeah, let's start there.
yeah, that feels like a big question.
It
right?
is.
It's a loaded question.
So I'm 36 and I completed my undergrad in 2016 and I decided to go straight on for my master's program. And while I was in my master's program, I chose to separate and get divorced. And then I worked in community agency for about 5 years and then decided I really wanted to bring my expertise into the area. I wanted to work with other women on specific issues. And I opened Mindful Healing 2 years ago.
So tell us a little bit about how you feel you are able to empower both men and women every day to help them be their best selves.
Yeah, I read that question and it's interesting because I actually don't have a real strong presence in the community for serving men. I'm more so known for the work I do with women, and it's kind of linked to what I shared with you in the beginning. So when you go out of graduate school and like you're starting out, you're super novice in every way possible. You think you can just like heal the world, basically, like serve everyone. And then like life gets in the way and happens. And a big part of my story is that I chose not to serve men during my divorce or afterwards, because really we hold biases, right? Like we hold biases as humans. And I just wasn't going to be clinically good if I was serving a population that myself like was going through stuff. So I serve women, which is what I do, but we have a really wonderful provider, Kyle, and he specifically works with men and he works with chronic pain. So it's a huge population that I know needs that support. It's not a population I serve or am known for serving. So
That's incredible. And I think it's so cool that you found that area that you're passionate about. And I'd love to hear you speak a little bit more. I mean, tell our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with mindful healing, what it is that you do.
Yeah, well, mindful self-compassion is kind of the practice behind mindful healing, and it's essentially the relationship we hold with ourselves. Like, how are we with ourselves behind closed doors? So in public, we have really pretty outfits, really pretty getup, right? But behind those scenes, we are usually struggling. Anxiety, depression, self-esteem, self-worth. And part of my practice is just really speaking to women like right at that level. We have this map of like how we're supposed to be in our culture, and a lot of women don't fit that map. And so it causes a lot of pain and distress to feel like you have to. So mindful self-compassion is all about how do I be with myself like when I'm already hurting about something without hurting myself more.
Wow.
So treating yourself how you would treat a friend is how Dr. Neff like really describes self-compassion.
feel like that, especially in today's day and age with so much noise on social media and celebrities and influencers, it's hard sometimes to really love yourself and to be okay with not fitting in that perfect box that society thinks that you should. So what advice could you tell our listeners and other women on how to not be so hard on yourself, how to essentially live with yourself?
Mhm. Well, the thing is that our culture is like really rooted in comparison. So when we get on Facebook or Instagram, our brains are automatically divided. Good or bad, yes or no, I don't like that, I do, friend or foe. Like that's what we're doing all day long, right, on social media. And it's kind of designed to distract us from being present with what's really going on with ourselves. So honestly, it would be a lie to say that people are going to pull away from social media or people are going to like, it's just not going to happen. But the mindfulness is becoming aware when it's like happening a lot or when it's getting to be too much. Or if you get off screen time and you feel really bad about yourself, your mind is probably in a super negative place when you're scrolling through social media. Whereas, like, maybe we can look at it like a tool that I get to be on, but I definitely get to put this tool away and do something else with my time. I don't have to be a slave to social media in order to enjoy my life.
I think what you mentioned about recognizing when
Right.
that point comes is a huge thing. And I'm curious as to when women come to you, what is maybe that common thing that that recognition becomes alive and they start to see that I need some support and I need to further that toolkit?
Yeah, that's a loaded question too, because I think that a lot of times people come into practice of therapy and they don't want the focus to be on themselves. They
Sure.
want it to be on a relationship that's struggling, a friendship that's struggling, a parent that's not available. And all of those things are really valid. They're not the root of healing. The root of healing is, and what is that part of yourself that's like super painful that you don't want to talk about, that you don't want to get out? And it's that piece that brings people in connected to themselves. Like they just have to feel safe in that. So,
Mhm.
but a lot of times people are drawn not with the idea of self. You know, I went to um, counseling in graduate school because I wanted to be a good counselor. I wasn't like, oh, I need counseling, you know, but like I absolutely need it. And I love my counselor. She is so gentle and so kind, and I really feel safe with her. So,
Do you think that there's ever like seasonality now, just getting into winter
mhm.
time? Do you think that plays a role as far as people making that decision to come see you or to seek help?
I think that women are untreated for like probably low mood disorders in general. So I would say women, and this comes from the research behind my perinatal mood work, right? So I've trained in perinatal mental health. So women who have babies and then afterwards we're watching them and how are they feeling after those baby blue period, that 2 week period. And so I think what I see a lot in my office is people being diagnosed with one thing but not treating the other. And so really for women in like this part of the world with the little sun we get with the pressure of like climate, we all have to be watching our mood and almost like not necessarily seasonal, but just always checking in with those triggers and those changes and just being really comfortable owning like some days are harder than others. Like I don't feel the best when I do this, and just getting super comfortable in that relationship with yourself and your mental health because it will only serve you over time.
Yeah. I think another trigger that I feel like tends to come up within this time frame is holidays and
Mhm.
being with family, and sometimes not, that family dynamic changes. And I feel like there's a lot of things that bubble over within the holiday season. So, do you have any advice for maybe women who are struggling with whatever it might be, who are entering the holidays?
Yeah, I think that you need to have a safe person. So otherwise you'll be on. all the time, especially for those of us who are, high level perfectionists, high level functioning. Like, we're used to keeping everything else together and everything else in order until like we're losing our shit. And then we're like, meh, and upset about it, right? Like, that's actually what happens. So it's like all the preventative stuff before, like, maybe I don't have to do this perfect. Maybe this doesn't have to be on my plate, literally and like metaphorically speaking, but also I get to say no. Like, I get to say no during the holidays. If I don't like spending extended time with that family, I get to say no. If I don't want someone to hug my kids, I get to say no. Like, these are all things we get to do, but we really have to give ourselves permission to do that. And just having those conversations with someone who aligns with you is just really supportive.
What about practicing, different healthy habits every day? So obviously going into the holidays, that's one, but how can you continue to practice healthy mindfulness throughout the whole year?
Right. The research shows from UC San Diego Center for Mindfulness that we actually don't have to like sit for an hour and do meditation. We need to do 3 to 5 minutes of informal meditation. So that could be like relaxing while you have tea or coffee, mindful breathing, choosing not to engage in gossip or negative behavior, choosing not to spend time with someone who drains your energy. Like, all of these things give back to the mindful self. And then from that centered place, there's a lot of really creative, good decisions you can make. But if you're draining yourself first, you're just going to be burnt out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So those 3 to 5 minutes a day. So that could be like when you wake up, absolutely when you wake up, because we're in what's called theta waves, which is a learning meditative state. And right before we go to bed, we enter that same kind of like childlike framework. Those are two really powerful times to not be scrolling through and comparing on social media, because our body's getting into fight and flight when we do that, versus like, oh, it's time for bed. I'm going to rest. So
Oh, I have like it. I literally thought about this morning, and I think it was because I was like subconsciously preparing to have this conversation with you. I woke up. The first thing I do is grab my phone and check my notifications, which turns into Instagram, turns into Facebook, turns into emails. And I have really wanted to go down this meditation path for a while, but I think in my head, I've been thinking, oh, I need to do a 20-minute meditation. And that's
right. It is, exactly. And that makes people feel like they can't accomplish it. The same thing with like any kind of being kind to ourselves, or anytime like we raise our awareness, we like are going to notice the negative first. And then that negative's either going to like pull us back, or we acknowledge it like, yeah, some days might be harder, go back up. And that's really resilience, like emotional resilience.
Totally. I love the little piece on meditation, and I'm so curious to know what your morning routine is. Paige and I
was just going to ask that.
We're big morning routine people, or we're fascinated by it. I won't say we have a perfect one figured out, but I'd love to hear how you prep your mind to have a great day.
Well, first of all, I don't do it every day. So let's just be like super honest about that, right? Like, we have off days, and honestly, sometimes we're tired, and we have seasons of like productivity, and then we have seasons of rest. So that is for like, give yourself that grace first. I give myself that grace because I'm a parent first, and I spend a lot of time with my kids. On the mornings that I am my most connected self, then I do wake up before the sun rises. I have a cup of tea. I do a little bit of morning meditation. And honestly, this is going to sound kind of goofy, but how I do the morning meditation is one hand over my heart and one hand over my stomach. And I really do inward child work. So what might show up for me? Okay, well, maybe let's say yesterday I was in a conversation and I felt like unseen or unheard. I knew it, but I didn't either address it, or I didn't like confront it. I maybe had my old child trigger. So when I'm sitting with myself, I'm like inviting that to come forward. What is that needs to be seen? What's that needs to be healed? And there is so much research in inner child subconscious work now, and it will only become more popular because the part of our brain that activates that doesn't know time. We know time like from the prefrontal cortex. I need to be here at 6 o'clock to talk to these lovely women, right, about this. But our limbic system, that our emotional mind doesn't know. So let's say I need to go back in time and like soothe myself from something that was painful. Super powerful to know that you can do that. It really, really puts you in the driver's seat of your own life. So on my best days, that's what I'm doing. But we have to take a break from healing too. So it's not always like I have to heal. Sometimes it's like I need to have joy. I need to be present. I need to love on my family. I need to sleep in. I need to, right? Like I love routine, but I don't think we have to be slaves to it.
I love that.
So,
Yeah. What are some of your favorite resources and just different,
yeah.
whether it's podcasts or different apps, different, because I know you mentioned meditation and
Yeah.
some of those for our listeners.
For this kind of like inner child work, some of my favorite like teaching mentors are Gabby Bernstein. Are you familiar with her work?
I think so.
Okay. She talks a lot about what I'm speaking on, and she has a really beautiful podcast. She just really expands on that idea of inner childhood trauma. And I just happen to align with that really strongly and see the most work with my clients who are willing to go there and do that in a real authentic way. I really love Dr. Kristen Neff's work. That's who my training is um, directly from. And she really founded mindful self compassion. It's a Buddhist construct, but she really westernized it and brought it into all our culture. And that's where my training and my teachings are from, is from her course and her material. How to Do the Work by Nicole Parr. I might be saying her name wrong. Nicole, anyways, same thing. Like it's this kind of work. So, and if you begin like unfolding that, and that becomes what you're interested in watching on your news feeds and the journey you're on, you will find your own voices in that. You will find kind of those guidance and well, maternal mentors and people that can help you grow.
Yeah. As far as, going back to just mindset and women specifically, I think we all as women can relate to a time where we are hard on ourselves. I think of Paige and I, we both walked in here right before this interview and we're like, oh, my hair, my this, and it's just kind of become almost a bonding thing. Like, I think sometimes we like to connect with each other on things that we're, not feeling great about.
Like
And
critical on.
critical. Yeah. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, literally we sat down, we're like, oh, I'm having a bad hair day. And I'm like, same. And I don't think either of us really care about our hair that much, but it's that, little commonality that we're like, oh, we both like have something in common. And I find that I've done that with other women unintentionally and very unconsciously. And now as you're speaking, I'm like, man, that's got to be something that we see a lot. So what advice can you give to women to just simply not be so tough on themselves?
Right. Well, like Paige, if you said to her that comment, and then if you said back to her, like, what? I really love my hair today. Like, I really like the way I look today.
Totally. Wow.
But how would you respond, Paige, to that? Like, what would your actual response be?
Good for you.
Yeah.
Quite cool. And that's exactly it. You never want to be like, well, I'm having a great hair day when someone is complaining
down.
Yeah.
100%. That's exactly what I teach women in these groups is the courage to say all of this is okay. Like I don't have to have a perfect day, but I get to own when things are going super well in my life too. I get to own when something feels good. I get to own when like I feel like that is aligned or like I do like how I look this day or right because it's never just that one day, right? So you're 100% right that we default to negative criticism because we feel it's a perceived safety. If I'm miserable and you're miserable, then we're miserable together and like we could never be happy. And I'm not saying that's you two. I'm just saying like that's women in general, right? And it's like, well, what if it was like, no, like there's celebration in this and there's pain or frustration in this too. Like beauty and aging and death and dying. And now I've sat with my mom as she's died, and there's a lot to like learn in that process, you know. And I think if we bring ourselves like to a larger frame of thinking, it is uncomfortable to break that mold, but I think it's absolutely important, especially for our next generation of women to see.
Well, switching gears and talking a little bit about
Yeah.
positive,
Yeah.
positive situation.
No, I'm stuck on this. I really want to talk about this the whole time.
Oh, that's funny. So, speaking about positive and success stories, what is something that comes to mind for a really great success story that you've seen with a client?
Oh man, this is so cool. I see the most beautiful success in women who really own all the parts of their life, like especially the parts that they would never put on social media, like because we don't want other people to see us this way, right? But when they like begin to recognize, and I'm saying this collectively because it's happened. I've been in practice for 8 years. And I think so many women make daily steps to be kinder to themselves, to like enjoy their lives where they're at, to not be so rigid with themselves and other people. The quality of their life just like flourishes. And so then it's just a ripple effect. I feel the most like purpose when I see women own those painful parts and they're not embarrassed or shameful of them. It is just part of their story. And then it's like, oh yeah, now I get to start this part of my story. And it's just gorgeous. Hopefully that answers it.
It does. No, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
that is so cool. What do you
Yeah.
think is the most challenging part of this role that you do with women?
Yeah, I think that sometimes women have the misgiving that maybe I wouldn't understand, or like they already put me here because culture puts doctors, educators, things like this on the other side. But the truth is, like the research now so shows so much that if I just be vulnerable, like if we're vulnerable with each other, we grow, like we heal through that. And so I think the biggest barrier is that sometimes there's this idea that people have to perform when they come to therapy. And I hate that. I
Yeah.
do not want therapy to be a place where someone feels like, am I doing good yet? Like, am I okay today? When I want it to be like, you are awesome, just like right here. And because of that, we have to unfold all this other stuff. But I don't like that feeling of not being able to be authentic in the place where you're meant to heal. I've been there too, right? I've had counselors where I've hidden that mask, and then I have had more recently counselors where I really do that work with them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think,
yeah, building the trust around that.
yeah, and do you think that takes a while to really earn that trust and kind of break down those
Yeah,
walls? Yeah.
I do. Yes, and I think it's worth it. And if there's anything that like I would love for listeners to hear is that you get to pick your counselor. You
Mhm.
get to pick your provider. You get to choose your path of mental health. Just because you have a diagnosis does not mean that you can't own that, walk into the right kind of healing. I know so many beautiful women in this community who are healers, chiropractors, acupuncture, therapists, and they want to serve women. Now, I mostly work with women, so I want to preface that, right? But there are so many women who are gentle healers in our community that are not in the spotlight. And it'd be really neat to help bring more of that forward.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as far as I think the different age ranges that you've been able to work
Mm-hmm.
with, there's such a wide variety. And I think of those younger women who are going to be kind of leading the next generation into hopefully more positive mental mindsets. But
Mm-hmm.
with that, what is one piece of advice that you think is so applicable and relevant to women of all ages?
I think if a female is brave enough to heal like her maternal wounds, so the wounds that are passed down from her mom, subconsciously or consciously, she will then absolutely impact the next generation. Because it's like in that maternal healing line of healing that we break patterns. And so if you are 60 and you decide to do that, you're going to impact your 40-year-old daughter, and she's going to impact her 20-year-old daughter. And that's actually the coolest thing. that is the coolest thing, is that triple effect. And I've seen that play out. So a real stoic, powerful mom opens up and nurtures her daughter. And then her daughter now has permission to do that with her kids. That's the powerful generativity of that maternal healing.
That's so cool,
Yeah.
just to see that trickle effect and the impact that it makes for generations and in the future. So that's really cool. So we always ask our guests, what does a queen mean to you? Because I love that even too, speaking about different generations and different impacts. So speak to us a little bit on that.
Yeah. Well, I loved Queen Elizabeth. Did you guys like her?
Yes.
Or like,
Yes.
she was wonderful. Okay, so that's actually probably what a queen means to me, is someone who like has an understanding of herself, her surroundings, and then no matter what like comes her way, she embraces it. Like she goes through it. She has resilience from it. She can then teach others. To me, that's what being a queen is. I strive for that too with my own girls.
Yeah, that is
Well
so
said.
perfectly said.
Yeah.
And I love we have had someone bring up Queen Elizabeth before in that question. And I think that's really cool to see that there's a figure that people can really connect with as that great role model. And I hope that they do more kind of, I don't know, interview, or like they release more information about her as a person so that our younger generation gets to see that too. And even myself, I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, me too.
She was kind of a stoic, like she wasn't that nice, you know, but the test of time is her endurance. And I feel like in our culture, like you guys are doing something really cool that takes endurance. You have to be creative. You have to continuously create what you're doing, which is awesome. That's the key that I think she had. She just had endurance. Like she could just endure all these times and all these changes. I think she could have been softer to her children, but like that's, you know, that's another piece. But yeah, she's
not all
a very
perfect. Yeah.
No.
Never one thing.
Everyone's got them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think watching you ladies, and then anyone who is willing to endure and change and grow, is just like really cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
So,
I feel like learning is a big piece of that as well. And I'd love to hear if there's something that you have learned recently that you feel like has maybe been impactful to your career or just your life.
Yeah, for sure. I think most recently, like in the past 6 months, I've learned that when I get really uncomfortable, I have to push through that. So that discomfort, like that small voice that might be like, who do you think you are? Or who are you to do that? Or is really for me now a challenge. Okay, why wouldn't I try that? Why wouldn't I explore that more? Like, I don't want to stay back here. I want to keep moving through that. So I tell women a lot to push through that initial discomfort, because it pushes you back in a lot of different ways. But if you can be like super like supportive of that, build up your inner dialogue and say, well, we're just going to try it anyways. Let's just try it anyways and keep going. That is something I've actually done in the past 6 months. I think I thought of it, but I've like put it in action. So
yeah, I feel like that can be the scariest. And then once you get over that, you're so thankful that you did and that you continue to progress on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, you just learn that you can.
Well, before we talk with you a little bit about how people can connect, is there anything else that you'd like to share about the business, or just really anything that's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I'm branching, like we have mindful healing, and that's our practice. And then I'm branching out with this Heal Well with Mel. And I'm not sure if you saw that part, but that's an extension of kind of my wisdom, my teachings that I've been gifted in to follow. And I'm really going to be bringing digital coursework to the online community in the next 6 months. So that's what I'm really, really excited about, which is why I have all this badass gear.
Yeah,
I'm going to be doing that.
I'm like, wait a second, you got like a whole set up. We look like amateurs compared to you.
So So cool.
FYI, I got this for our speaking one here first. So,
Love it. I love that we get a
but
break.
it's really for recording teaching for the modules that I'll be leading. So
Awesome. And when will that be releasing?
yeah, so like you pilot the program. So the learning institution I'm from to bring out digital coursework, you pilot it, and then 6 months later you run it again. So hopefully like in the start of 23.
Nice.
And that's something that people are able to sign up for, or
yes.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And the first round will be, a considerable discount because they're kind of learning as I'm launching the material, right? So it's a kind of a learning tool for me, a baby project, but something that I'm going to really see through for quite some years. So
exciting. And I think it's super neat in the community. So great job.
Always great to have more options. So congratulations on that expansion. That'll be so fun.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, tell us where, everyone can connect with you, socials, your website, where that they can find you so that they can continue to follow along and learn more.
Sure. Yeah. So Heal Well with Mel is my handle. And that's like that would be Instagram, that's Facebook, YouTube. That'll be everything for that. Mindful Healing is our practice, and you can go straight to our website. You can find us through Facebook or online. Online system is super nice. You just click into it. I'm not accepting new clients. I'm pretty full through the first part of 23, but Kyle is accepting new clients, and we also have a really wonderful intern, Desiree, and she is working with clients, and I oversee her work. So we have both.
Awesome. Well, we will link everything. Yeah. Super easy for people to find and connect with you guys. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much. You look lovely.